What's good, everybody? It's your boy D Nice with I2G Radio, back at it again with another podcast. This is the Las Vegas Raiders portion of I2G Radio and the podcast. Urge everyone to like, comment, and subscribe to I2G Radio on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Letter I, number 2, letter G, radio. Can also check us out on YouTube, Viva Las Raiders. Word Viva, word Las, Raiders with an S. Today, just wanted to talk a little bit about the press conference last week. Really wasn't a press conference, just kind of an interview that JT the Brick did on the Raiders side of things with General Manager John Spytek. Just kind of giving some highlights of that interview. I really think Spytek has had, as a general manager for the Raiders, one of the better, if not, I would say the best free agency periods in recent memory for the Raiders. A lot of ups and downs. Just wanted to highlight a few things that he was speaking about and just kind of give my overall thoughts on this particular interview. It was very insightful. Spytek has had a lot of things that have come up this season, and not only with the season, but also in the off season as well, that he talks about. First thing we want to play here is just his thoughts on adding Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean to the Raiders.
It was interesting because they kind of came to a head at the same time. You know, we were able to Zoom with Nakobe with the new rules this year. That was important to him. I wasn't surprised that he wanted to do that, knowing how thoughtful and thorough of a person he is. And, we stayed in touch with Quay's guys, too. And it just kind of happened at the same time. They both started to show a lot of interest in coming here, which I think to our group was really a cool thing. I mean, it's when people start to seek you out a little bit and think like, hey, it's the silver and the black and the Raiders and Las Vegas is where I want to go. That's a neat thing to be a part of. And, we had some quick but strategic discussions about could we pull this off? Would it make sense? How would we play it? How would we play them in the scheme? Conversations with the coaching staff. And in a matter of 15 or 20 minutes, it felt like they both made commitments to come join us here. It was interesting because they kind of came.
All right, so that was John Spytek talking about the signings of Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker to the Raiders. For the Raider fans of, I would say, more than 20 or 30 years, it has been a long, long time since the Raiders have had two really good to great linebackers on their defense. I'd have to go back to probably 2002 at least, with that group, Greg Beekert and a few other linebackers on that team. But what this allows really the defense for the Raiders, Quay Walker, can play, off ball, will linebacker. You can have Nakobe Dean as your Mike. Get a little versatility there, a lot more speed, a lot more sideline to sideline as far as what you want from a linebacker. Can also give you good coverage as well on tight ends, which is something that has been a big issue with the Raiders, it seems like, for decades. It seems like the Raiders have always had issues in guarding and defending tight ends. This is going to go a long way to rectifying things and kind of solidifying that room. I would still like to see the Raiders draft a linebacker here in the upcoming draft. Then you also have Cody Lindenberg and you also have Tommy Eichenberg, and then that will round out that linebacker room. I would love to see possibly even if they bring back Devin White. If they bring back Devin White, I don't know exactly if they would need to still go out and get a linebacker, but we'll see how that plays out. They have definitely upgraded that room twofold, and just those two moves alone on the defensive side of the ball. Next thing we're going to talk about is Spytek's comments, a few of his comments here that he had on signing center Tyler Linderbaum to the richest contract ever for a center, but just where he kind of fits with the Raiders. So let's check it out.
That was a guy that we targeted early, and just we thought, with the way that a lot of times those guys do go with a player of that caliber. A lot of times those guys get done before free agency starts, and he didn't. And so, once it was clear he was going to hit the market, we made our best offer. We had a lot of great conversations with Clint and the coaching staff, and how important the center is in this offense that we're going to run, and particularly a player of his caliber and his traits. And so, we tried to make him an offer he couldn't refuse.
All right, so that was John Spytek talking about signing of Tyler Linderbaum. A great signing. That was the first signing for the Raiders in free agency. Again, richest contract's almost $27 million per year, but it was definitely excited. You can tell, just even in the interview there, his excitement, again, making an offer they can't refuse, as a classic line from The Godfather. But I think what's now going to happen with that will kind of be the same effect as when the Raiders were able to sign Rodney Hudson in free agency too. The Raiders really gives you that leader. Not to say Jackson Powers-Johnson couldn't have developed into that for the Raiders, but at this point, two regimes kind of seeing him more as a guard as opposed to a center. And, he had even said on social media that he's ready to work. He's rehabbed, he's ready to go, and he's ready to now, solidify himself as a guard on either side next to Tyler Linderbaum. I think that makes a really good combo. If you want to go to the left, you've got Colton Miller, you've got Jackson Powers-Johnson, and you've got Tyler Linderbaum. That solidifies that left side of the line. You could put JPJ on the right side, and you've got Linderbaum, JPJ, and you go Charles Grant or DJ Glazed for right tackle. Either way, it solidifies and strengthens your offensive line room. So that could be nothing but right, especially when you've got the young Ashton Jeanty in the backfield. I've got big plans. I see big things happening for Ashton Jeanty here in year two. Next, General Manager Spytek talks about just his thoughts on Raider Nation and the fan base. So let's check out his thoughts on that.
It's special. It really is. I mean, it's more than I could ever have imagined taking this job. I mean, to feel the love and the energy and the passion from Raider Nation is really special. I mean, it's one of one, in my opinion. And, I just stick with us. We've got a great plan. We've got a bunch of great people working really hard on it. And, we're going to execute it to the best of our ability. And I think we're all really excited about where we're at right now after the past month. And, we've got really big things in our future.
Love this from John Spytek. Just giving it up to the Raider Nation, the fan base. I know a lot of us may feel like with family members, sometimes you for the most part, you get along. Sometimes you have those times where you guys are almost at each other's throats. And, that's kind of how Raider Nation is at times. We're constantly divided and thoughts on different things. He who shall not be named, that is not a quarterback here anymore. Whether it was Josh Jacobs when he left or Max Crosby currently. This team has a very wide opinion and a passionate how they feel about said decisions that go on in the room. So it's cool that John Spytek can recognize that and can acknowledge and speak on that. I know patience is a virtue, as the saying says, but I'm hoping this regime can get things right. As far as to speak a little bit more about the whole Max Crosby situation, don't have any audio or anything that I'm going to play about this, as at this point it's kind of been beat to a pulp and is ad nauseum almost, and talking about Max Crosby, the trade that didn't happen and everything. I really want to give a shout out to John Spytek on just how he's handled situations. So many times when you see a player that is traded, general manager or front office will, kind of say disparaging things or, make it seem like it's a messy divorce or things of that nature. He was very candid, always honest, and said, even before Max Crosby was traded, that they did not want to trade Max Crosby. Whether people feel it's right, wrong, or indifferent, made it very clear this was something that Max requested. And they, they didn't, drag it out or anything of that nature. They traded him and they got 2 first-round picks. And I felt like all of these moves, even, the Kwity Paye's and the that signed here and the Taron Johnsons and the Jalen Naylors, all of those moves were all things that strengthened the team on offense and on defense. So you really felt like they were kind of going in the right direction. Had the additional first-round pick, so they had 2 first-round picks. The number 1 pick could have been Fernando Mendoza, and then I think that would have been for the 13th overall pick or 14th. I think it was 14. Could have gone wide receiver, offensive line. Possibilities are endless, and you still have all of your full draft picks. So, that wasn't meant to be. The trade was rescinded, but I just loved the calm demeanor that John Spytek has shown through all of this. He didn't go out of his way again to say anything disparaging about Max Crosby, and they welcomed him back with open arms. And I think a lot needs to be said about that. And I just like the way that it was handled, in a moment where people are constantly saying, Raiders are back on that drama again and everything of that nature. He was the calm, cool, and collected guy in the room and was able to quickly pivot and then add back Max Crosby to an already improved defense. And I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what this defense can do, not only in the draft, but with the new additions, again, the Kwity Paye's, the Nakobe Deans, the Quay Walkers, bringing back Malcolm Koonce, adding Taron Johnson to this room. I think if they can add a defensive tackle and add a starting free safety, I think the sky's the limit for the Raiders. They have a very, very bright future ahead of them. So last clip here, just kind of John Spytek's thought process going into the season, going into the draft and upcoming season, and just what you can expect from the Raiders moving forward.
I've learned to be patient, but when you need to be aggressive, you have to go for it. And I think we were, the saying upstairs this free agent class was intelligently aggressive. We weren't going to get out over our skis. We weren't going to create our own urgency. But when the opportunity presented itself, we were going to let it rip. And in free agency, if the worst thing that you hear is no, then at least you gave a great offer and your best shot. And I can live in that world. And we were just fortunate this year with strategically how we put it all together and the group work that we did in the personnel department and with the coaches that we were able to let it rip in some key spots and get some really critical players brought into this organization.
Love that mentality by John Spytek. My apologies, he was talking just overall just viewpoint and thoughts on now going year 2 as a general manager and just their process on how they attacked free agency. It was great to hear that from Coach, keep calling him Coach Spytek. Coach is Kubiak, but from our general manager, John Spytek, and just how he kind of approached free agency and moving forward, how he would like to, kind of make decisions on bringing players here on the team and adding to the roster. So those are just some quick bullet points I wanted to talk about. Again, it was a great interview. Urge everyone that hasn't seen it, go on YouTube, check under the Raiders official YouTube channel, and you can check out that full interview, JT the Brick, with John Spytek. So for the rest of the week, I am going to be doing another one of these because they've had the kind of meetings here with the coaches. There was also a interview done with Mark Davis. We're going to talk about that, a couple of the clips from that. They interviewed John Spytek again, some of the highlights, and also Clint Kubiak was also interviewed. So I'm just going to give my thoughts on that Also, we'll be going over the first mock draft. We'll be doing another one here later in the week and just talk about that. How I'm going to kind of approach that. The first one, just kind of, seeing what was on the board and, kind of made some moves. The additional ones moving forward, I'm going to take more of an offensive approach on some of the players drafted in my draft, whether wide receiver, offensive line, many different ways that you can kind of approach how you do that. And then also do something where it's a little bit more defense, and then, kind of have some fun with it and go with best player available. And meaning that, and if the best player is a wide receiver and I've already taken a wide receiver in the second or third round and I want to take one in the fifth, might do that. But just going to show kind of a few different routes and just some players that I have on my radar, which for the draft will be coming up here. I think we are 2.5, if not 3 weeks away. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. But the site, www.illuminati2g.com, for all of your hip-hop news and notes, as well as Raider news and notes. Again, Las Vegas Raiders podcast, and also all our music podcasts, I2G Radio, letter I, number 2, letter G, radio. We are on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. You can also check this out on YouTube, Viva Las Raiders. Word Viva, word Las, Raiders with an S. Like, comment, and subscribe on all of those platforms. Much love to everyone that has been commenting and subscribing over on our YouTube channel. Got a lot more coming up, so keep it locked. D Nice I2G Radio signing off. Peace.